Happy Friday, everybody. A little later than usual, but I'm here to talk to you about episode 6 of season 3. Guy walks into an advertising agency. The double meaning of this title, my friends, it's pretty easy. The guy's name is Guy, and he walks into an advertising agency. He didn't walk out, but we'll get there. Welcome, everybody, to your favorite Mad Men podcast. I'm talking about Made Man, where every Friday I talk about an episode of Mad Men as I make my way from season 1 all the way to whatever the hell the end of the seasons are. I don't even know off the top of my head, but right now we're in the middle of season 3. Can you believe it? Neither can I. Let's start this episode. Yeah, I already forgot. I mean, I'm literally looking at my computer. I'm seeing the credits roll, and I already forget how this episode started. I mean, is that crazy? Wasn't it like with Sally and her dad? Yeah, that had to be it. I mean, I'm just going to talk about what happened. Whether I get it right or wrong, you know. I mean, you know at this point. You're still listening. It's crazy. But I appreciate it. You know, we could talk about Sally and get this whole thing out of the way. Sally is a little girl who is a little freaked out by having a little brother. It's not that that she's jealous. At first you thought she was jealous and that she was, wanted the attention on her, because that happens sometimes with older siblings. But she wasn't that way with Bobby. And Bobby was cool. He was like, hey, baby. He pet the baby. He came in to see the baby. And then he ran off to play. But Sally didn't want to get near the baby. And Betty thought, she's jealous of the baby. So she goes and gets Sally a Barbie doll. And Sally doesn't want to sleep. Sally wants to sleep with her lights on. So Don's like, we got to get her a nightlight. And it turns out, she didn't really want the Barbie doll. She liked the nightlight, but she didn't really want the Barbie doll because Don came home one night and the Barbie doll was sitting outside, probably got thrown out the window. Don brought the Barbie doll back in the house, and I had a feeling something was going to happen from that. And of course it does. Sally freaks the hell out, screaming. And why? Well, it turns out it all has to do with the name of the baby, Baby Jean. The same name as her grandfather that died. She says he's got the same name. He lives in the same room and even looks like him. So she thinks that Baby Jean is the ghost of the grandfather coming back to haunt them, I guess. I don't know. So Sally, Don almost used that as an excuse because he hates the name. Sally goes, Betty's like, that's my father's name. And that is, that's what he's being named. And that's how people do things. He's like, I hated your dad and he hated me. But he didn't put up enough of a fight. He's like, I guess that's the baby's name, Baby Jean. He goes into Jean's bedroom. He picks up the baby, brings Sally over and says, look, he's just a baby. We don't know who he's gonna be. We don't know how he's gonna turn out, and that's a pretty beautiful thing. Meaning that we just have to love this baby, and there's nothing bad about the baby. The baby is not a bad person or anything yet. Not yet, but he's nothing. He is about to become something though. And that's how the episode ended. Thank you for everybody for listening. That's the family stuff. Let me get the family stuff out of the way because it was little, it was sweet, but it wasn't. There wasn't a lot to it. That was it. Boom, bang, bing, bang, boom, out of the picture. Let's go to work, and that's where everything happened. That's where there was lots of stuff happening at work, and it all has to do with the fact that the British were coming. Yes, I want to say price something low. Of course, I forget. I just watched this show. I've watched every episode. I watch it every week. Like a television show, like it was on every week. I really haven't watched 2 episodes in a week. I think I did that one time at the beginning. But I really just watch 1 episode a week, and I talk about it. So me getting all these names wrong, it's terrible. There's no excuse. But the British company, who I definitely have gotten right before, they're sending some folks over from corporate to check out everything that's going on. There's a memo sent out. Everyone's going to be at a meeting. And the reason why the British are coming, well, they want everyone to meet Guy, who seems to be this young, hip accounts man. Bert Cooper is telling Don, maybe this is a way of them saying how much of a young, wonderful person you are. And that's my attempt at Bert Cooper. I can't really do a Bert Cooper, but he kind of talks like this, and like an old man. And he was kind of getting Don's hope up, like, would you like to live in London and New York? Maybe they see you as kind of the guy, as the big liaison. That's his thinking. But at the same time, before the British are coming, because they were coming the next day, he says to Roger and Don, he's like, look, you two need to bury the hatchet. You need to figure this out. You need to stop fighting, and you need to get on the same page. Everyone wants Martin and Lewis, the duo. And, they really haven't addressed, like, a fight between the two or a rift between the two, but it's pretty much kind of been there. And I think it had a lot to do with Roger leaving his wife, Roger getting a new wife, having the party and, having to deal with the new wife. And, the party where Roger wore blackface. Oh, wonderful. And I don't think Don loved it. At the same time, Don's back with his family. He's done his own fair, share of being a shitty husband. But I guess that's where it stems from. Also, the fact maybe Don doesn't love that they sold the company, but Roger's like, look, I got you $500,000. I want some gratitude. And he goes, I don't like being judged. Oh, excuse me, I'm so tired. I don't like being judged. I think it's him talking about his new wife. And Roger's like, we don't have to do this. Everything's fine. And he did say thank you. He got a really nice shave. Betty noticed it later because he actually brought up to Betty back at the house, have you ever thought about living in London? And she was all excited, and he just gave a big smiley grin. But the next day, the corporate people from, my God, I can't believe I forget their name. I want to say Price something Low. I'm so bad. I'm so bad. But they come into town, and one of them I recognize from other meetings. Oh, and Roger was like, they really like the way you acted around Duck. So, I mean, not Roger. Bert said that. Don really like the way you acted around Duck. So this could be their way of, they like the way you carry yourself. They see you as a special guy. And then they meet everybody and bring everyone into the conference room to talk about the changes they're making. Well, first, there's that British guy who's kind of been around in the Sterling Cooper offices, Lane. And they bring Lane, and they said, we want to thank you, Lane, for all the work you've done. And we got you a little special gift for your next challenge. And it was a cobra in a basket as a way for them to say, you're going to India, and you're going to do the same thing there. And he's like, oh, all right. He did not like that. His wife is settling in, his kids... kid got into a school, and all of a sudden he needs to start over. And they're like, it's not starting over, it's moving up. So they just see him as kind of the man that they bring in from one place to the next place that they need to buy out. So they bring everyone into the conference room, and they talk about how some changes, how Lane's going off to India, and here are the new changes. And they put over the overhead projector a chart of the new Sterling Cooper. At the top it says, the British company, which I can't remember. Then it says Sterling Cooper, and then right below that, the new guy. Yes, this new young hotshot guy who seemed like a nice guy, named Guy, seemed like a nice man. He would be basically taking over, and the chart also showed to the left Don Draper. So Don looks over and he's like, oh, I have my exact same job, my exact same thing. Talks about the accounts with Ken and Pete, and then talks about the new head of technology, the new head of television, how they're going to be upping television with Harry. Bert Cooper's over here and kind of his emeritus, honorable role. And Roger isn't even on the friggin' chart. And they're like, oh, that's an oversight. They take with a magic marker and they write, Sterling under Bert Cooper. And the meeting ends. And all the guys are like, what the hell just happened? And they're like, basically, Harry, you're the only one who there's reorganization. You're the only one that got a promotion. And Harry's like, really? I did? And Roger's like, yeah, you did. Now, the day before this get-together, or the day before the British were coming in, Ken drives in on a John Deere lawnmower. Drives a lawnmower into the office. Now, my first thought was, that's not a great idea. Drives him into the office, and he's basically like, I got the John Deere account. He's all excited about having the John Deere account. That's why I brought it in there. Like, you need to clean this up because the Brits are coming tomorrow. So, the British are there. They do their thing. They come in, as I said, they have the meeting. They talk about the reorganization. But at the same time, the big announcement is that Joan is leaving. Mrs. Harris is moving on. Her husband's getting a promotion, and she's leaving her job. And the girls all want to throw a party for her. They want to get her a cake. She's starting to finish up. And one of the British guys is still, he's still using her as a resource. And then, of course, he says some real jerky thing about, like, for your surprise party tomorrow. And they're like, why would you say that? And he was like, well, she knows everything. She probably knew this was coming too. And then she said to him, I'll help you, but I'm going home to my husband. In the middle of the night, if you need something, don't call me. So she was really short to this guy. He's the Lane's kind of second banana. He's the younger British guy. I don't know his name. He's just kind of smarmy. But the thing is, with Joan, the reason she was leaving her job, her husband was supposed to get a promotion. I think he was supposed to be made resident. I don't know, something like that. But, no, not made resident. I don't know. But whatever it was he was supposed to get, he didn't get. She went home to cook her husband a celebratory dinner. And the next thing we do is we see her sleeping on the couch, and her husband stumbles in drunk. And she basically, she isn't overly mean to him. Now, maybe it's because, he's a asshole rapist. I don't know, and she's afraid. But she's kind of, understanding and sweet to him, and he tells what happened, that he got passed over promotion, that the other doctor told him he doesn't have heart in his hands. Basically, it doesn't look like he'll ever work as a surgeon in New York. He's like, I could go to Alabama maybe and be a surgeon, but I'm still another year of my residency, so you're still going to have to get a job. So you're going to have to keep your job. She's like, that ship has sailed. He's like, well, then you're going to have to find another job. I keep yawning. But, come on. She's on the show. She's going to get her job back. That's just somehow. Now, she's probably going to get her job back because she's a hero. How is she a hero? Well, do you remember that John Deere lawnmower I was talking about? Well, the next day, even though Joan realizes she needs a job back, they came out to the British guy came out to toast everybody and then made a special announcement about Joan and her last day. And he goes, even though I've only met you for a few hours, the people who have had you here for years, they will really appreciate you. They will really miss you. And she starts crying. And they bring out a cake. And he's like, work. He said basically that work is, I forget what he said. Something about like, this is work for another day. Right now, enjoy the alcohol and enjoy the drinks. That's the same thing as alcohol. The food and the alcohol. So they're drinking champagne and what's her name? Peggy, is drinking champagne with Don. And Don's like, she's like, this is good champagne. He's like, I don't think it is. I think he's pissed because he was passed over from something greater. He basically, all this reorganization, and he's just doing the same thing. Roger's not, his name's not around on the friggin' board. Now, he went in to talk to Bert. Bert's eating his chocolate pudding, and he's like, my name's not even on there. He's like, well, it's an oversight. It's the price we have to pay. That young guy seems like he really knows what he's doing. And Bert's like, we took their money. We have to do what they say. That's the gist. They made a lot of money from this, giving up their company. He's like, my name's on the building. and it wasn't even on the chart. But Roger's like, he almost was like, I don't know what the job is. It's to make people believe things, and basically it was, this guy's job was to listen. I don't know what they said, but they were complimenting the guy, and at the same time they were like, our hands, this is what we did. We brought this on ourselves. So what are we going to do? So the party's going on, and Don gets a phone call, and he gets a phone call from Conrad Hilton's office. Yes, you may know Paris Hilton. This is probably her grandfather or great-grandfather. Conrad Hilton. I'm assuming, I don't know, maybe he was the start of the Hilton Empire. Maybe his father was. I don't know. But this is the guy in charge of the Hilton Empire. And wants to meet Don Draper. Don's like, what's this for? I don't know. I keep yawning. But the party's going on. He's like, all right, I'll come over right now. He leaves. Now at the party, people are drinking champagne. People are having fun. And there's that young copywriter. He's the short guy who's with the French guy all the time. And they were having some small talk. And then he's like, I don't know, I got to go to the bathroom. So he goes off to the bathroom. A few minutes later, vroom, vroom, you hear him take that John Deere out for a spin, and he's got one of the secretaries riding on his back, and the guys are laughing, and Ken's like, you need to put that away. You need to be careful with that. That's and they're like, it's fine. It's no big deal. They put the secretary on the machine, and right then and there, I'm thinking something's happening here. This is not, a lot of the time this show is character driven, where giant moments don't happen. Yeah, Don got in a car accident once, or these things do happen, but not a lot. A lot of the time it's character, something, something happens dialogue-wise, and you deal with the consequences. But when she was riding that lawnmower, I thought, there's something, very big is going to happen. They keep showing her, and they keep cutting back and forth between her and Peggy and Joan, and kind of having a heart-to-heart. Peggy saying she wants to get Joan something nice. She appreciated her. She listened to what she had to say. And she's really happy for Joan to getting everything that she wants. And then that secretary swerves and I'm thinking she's going to get Joan. Nope. She drives the friggin' lawnmower over the new British guy's foot. It was grotesque. So you just see the turn. You hear the tear. You look at Harry, Ken, and Pete, I think. I don't know if Kinsey was there. And all of a sudden, just you hear a scream and just blood spray all over them. I mean, it was like gross. And this guy hits the ground and is like, ah! He's screaming. And you look down and his shoe is still on, but his foot is like a mangled mess under there. And Joan just jumps to it. She's like, get me this, get a tourniquet, get this, read that, call an ambulance. I don't think they said call 911. I don't think that's a thing then. Call an ambulance, wrap the foot up, and he's screaming and freaking out. And the secretary drives the lawnmower right into right through like a door, knocks the door over. They're like, get her out of here. I don't know if she's done. I don't know what it is, but he gets taken off to the hospital. All the guys are staying, excuse me, I keep yawning. All the guys stay behind. They're in Pete's office, I think. And they've got blood on, they've got like their shirts taken off, their t-shirt, or their bloods are on their shirt. And the little guy's like, can't believe that happened. Why did you let her drive it? And Ken's like, it's safe. It's a safe machine if you know how to drive it properly. In the meantime, Roger Sterling comes in and she's like, it looks like, did you say Iwo Jima out there or something? He said some kind of thing where just the blood is everywhere, and they're saying how he might lose his foot, and then while they're talking, a guy with a squeegee on the wall behind them, through the wall, is cleaning the blood off the wall, and Harry almost passes out, and he's like, "Oh, sit." Roger calls him and says, "Sit down, Mary," and he made some joke. I forget what it was. But he was like, I tell you something, somewhere, some other advertising agency, this has happened before. He kind of blew it off like it was no big thing. I don't think he cared all that much. I don't think he liked the fact that he was left off the chart, so this didn't really bother him all that much. Now, Don went over to the Waldorf Astoria, I believe is what the hotel was at, to meet Conrad Hilton, and it turns out he met him before. A couple weeks ago, they were at the that party for Roger. A couple weeks ago on the show, a few episodes back when they went my own Kentucky home, they went to the party where Roger wore the blackface. Don went in and met some older guy who was there for a wedding and fixed him a drink, and they talked a little bit. And it turns out that is Conrad Hilton. And somehow he knew he worked at Sterling Cooper. He knew he was a handsome fella. He tracked him down eventually, and because he wanted to finally meet him and ask him for his opinion on some advertising. Don's like, "Do you do your work for free?" He's like, "Well, I'm asking you for a freebie here." Don gives him a little free advice, and then because they had like Hilton advertising, it looked like Jerry, the Jerry Mouse from Tom and Jerry. And he's like, yeah, people don't want to think of mice in hotels, which was so like common sense. And he's like, well, what do you want, Don? He goes, I'd love your business. And the guy's like, you could have asked for so much more. I don't know if that meant, you could have asked for a job or what. But Don's like, he said some kind of like metaphor of the snake that is so hungry that it eats so much so quickly it chokes, one thing at a time. I thought that was kind of funny that talking about a snake at the same time, that's the gift they gave that British guy Lane to tell him he's going to India, a snake. And maybe this guy was the snake coming in to take away Lane's job, coming in to basically write off Roger Sterling, keep Don exactly where he is. He bit off more than he could chew. He ended up choking. Now, I mean, honestly, the accident was he got his foot run over. But as it turns out, this guy got his foot run over, and Don Guest had to leave for an emergency, goes to the hospital, meets Joan there, meets the British guys there. The British guys are like, look, Lane's got to stay on. He can't do this job. And they're like, Don's like, he can't? He's like, he's got one foot. How could he work? Doctor says he may never golf again. I don't know what that means for this guy. I don't know if that means we're never going to see this guy again. But as it turns out, if he was the snake coming in and he ended up biting off more than he could chew, even though it was a lawnmower that did him in, he's out of there. Oh my God, did I just find a metaphor? Cool. Guy walks into an advertising agency, like I said, but he doesn't walk out. He got taken out on a stretcher. Now he's gone. Lane keeps his job. And business as usual continues at Sterling Cooper. Does that mean that Joan is going to get her job back? I have a feeling somehow that'll work out. Maybe she'll work for Peggy. That doesn't seem right. She's too good. But where does that leave us? It leaves the guy Lane staying with us. I'm glad he didn't have to leave because he's kind of growing on me. And it leaves Roger angry, but not angry at Don. They seem to be doing better. Bert has just kind of put his hands up and is like, this is what happens. We take money. Harry somehow got a promotion. Pete and Ken keep their jobs. Ken got a great account with John Deere, but it just so happened that you can't really take their stuff and drive it around the office. Something really bad could happen, like you run over a guy's foot and ruin his life. And Joan's husband, who is a rapist asshole, they almost made you feel bad for him, but really you just feel bad for Joan. And Joan's going to probably have to get her job back. Hopefully she will. I'm sure she will. And I think that covers it. We talked about the home life. Don had this idea of going to London, but that ain't happening. And little baby Jean, hopefully. Baby Jean, Sally don't like him. He's just a baby. He is not your grandfather's ghost. He is not your granddad's ghost. I just made that up, and please don't tell the Michael Jackson estate. Well, they have bigger things to worry about right now, but I don't want to get sued. So, my friends, I think that covers everything. It's Friday night. It's late. It's nearing 10 p.m. I don't know what time I'll get this up. Probably pretty soon. But I want to say thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for following me on Twitter. On Twitter, it's Made Man Pod. We're on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, anywhere you can find podcasts. Pocket Cast, we're there. Anywhere you want to find podcasts, you can find us. And my friends, we did it. another Friday, another Mad Men episode, another Made Men episode. We are pushing our way through season 3, and we'll be back again next Friday, because that's what we do every Friday from now until the end of time. You and I will run together in the meadows of AMC television as I am talking out of my ass and also continuing on my journey to become a made man.
Fans not experts.